Why does this book feel so heavy? This book feels so much heavier than this one. It must be longer. Oh yeah, it is.
1, 2, 3, let's switch this up.
Hello and welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be doing my monthly wrap up, and this is going to be a monthly wrap up for both November and December because I did not do a monthly wrap up for either of them yet. So if you're interested to see the books that I read and what I think of them for those 2 months, then keep on watching. Starting off, the first book that I read for November was Wild Seed by Octavia Butler, and I gave this book 3 stars. It just wasn't for me. This book follows, it's like Doro and what's the girl's name? Anyanwu. They both have like these powers, these abilities. So it takes place like in the, I don't even remember what century, like the 17th century. I don't know, it's like the 1600s or the 1800s. I don't know, it takes place a long time ago. It takes place like during slavery time, whatever. So they are both like from Africa, and they both have like these special powers. And Doro wants to create like a whole like tribe, village, nation, whatever, of more people with these abilities. Anyanwu was just living her best life. Like, she's just doing her thing. She's having children. She's raising children. She's being a grandmother, a auntie, you know, whatever, a friend, whatever you need. She's a healer. Like, she's just living her best life. Doro finds Anyanwu, and he basically wants to use her as a baby making factory to try to create these superpower babies that he wants to make. So it really is, the way that I describe this book to people, it's like Roots meets X-Men. Like Roots and X-Men had a baby and it was called Wild Seed. So if that sounds interesting, definitely check this out. This story to me was very slow. It was kind of repetitive. They're kind of just doing the same stuff. Like, it's different stuff, but it's like the same stuff at the same time. Like, new player, same game kind of thing. That's kind of how this book was, so I didn't like that. And then the ending I really didn't like. I did not like how it ended at all. So yeah, for those reasons, I gave this book 3 stars. I really wanted to like this book because I know that Octavia Butler is a very popular author. So I really wanted to like it just off the strength of that. But sadly I did not. I do plan on reading more of her work because, like I said, I want to like her. I want to know what it is that other people like see in her work as to why she's so popular and so, you know, loved within the community. But this book just didn't do it for me. So if you have any recommendations of books by Octavia Butler that I should read, please let me know that down below in the comments. Next, I read A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J. Maas. And this book, this is probably the biggest book I've ever read. How many pages is this? Like 620 or something like that? 628? I don't know. I don't remember. It's something like that though. It's over 600 pages, I know that. This is definitely the longest book that I have ever read. I gave this 4.25 stars. So yeah, I did really enjoy this. I liked this so much more than the first book. The first book, the main character was really annoying, especially like in the first half or like the first like 3/4 of the book. The main character was like super irritating. Like, I just wanted to be done with this book. But in this book, they made her much more like tolerable. I liked the romance in this story, and I like the fact that the romance didn't overshadow the plot. Like, this book actually has a plot. There's an actual storyline happening. It's not just romance. It's not just like characters doing stuff and you watching them. Like, there's an actual plot. Like, they're trying to accomplish a goal. Like, they're trying to do something. So I like that, but I like that there was like kind of like a background like subplot of romance that was kind of like a slow burn. And I think I said in another video that I didn't like slow burn books. This wasn't a slow burn book. The romance in this book was slow burn because there were other things happening that were more at the forefront, which I really liked and appreciated. I understand why people say that this book is their favorite in the series. Granted, I haven't finished the series, but just comparing this book to the first book, this book is definitely better than the first book. So I would say if you read the first one and you didn't really like it, or you weren't like crazy about it, and you're like on the fence about whether or not you should continue, I do recommend giving this one a chance because, like I said, I did like this one a lot better than the first one. And this one has definitely motivated me to continue the series, on top of the fact that I heard that there's going to be a crossover, allegedly, between this series and the Crescent City series, which I haven't even started yet, so I definitely need to get on that at some point this year. The next book that I read is a book that I have not been able to stop thinking about since I read it, and I read this book I think in November, and that is Luckiest Girl Alive by Jessica Knoll. I don't remember reading the synopsis before I read the book. I probably didn't read the synopsis before I read the book, but even if I had, the synopsis does not prepare you for what you are going to be walking into if you read this book. This is a book that I would highly, strongly recommend reading the trigger warnings or looking up the trigger warnings first before you read this. And this is coming from somebody who does not read trigger warnings. Like, I usually don't care about trigger warnings. I'm like, ooh, trigger me, like, do it, let's do it. But this book was a lot that I just didn't know. I think it's chapter 12. Oh my gosh, like, nobody told me that this book was about a school shooting. Like, whoa. And there's a bunch of other triggers even before you get to that, like well before you get to that. Eating disorder, substance abuse, sexual assault, like there's a lot happening in this book. But chapter 12 is the chapter in my mind that as I was reading it, I could like see it as if it was a movie. And those images that I conjured in my mind reading chapter 12 have not left my mind since I read it. And if I had known what this was going to be, I would not have picked this book up. I gave this book 3 stars. There are probably people out there that will love this. I'm assuming there must be people out there that love it if it somehow managed to get turned into a movie. Also, there's some language in this book that I didn't really care for. There's some like non-PC language that's used in this book. So if you are someone who's not into like offensive language or like slurs and stuff like that, this probably will also not be the book for you. That was another reason why I was just like, whoa, wait a minute, why'd you have to use that word? You didn't have to say that. And I get it, like sometimes characters say things because the author wants you to dislike them, but I feel like there are ways to get the audience to dislike a character without them having to use certain words that we as a society can pretty much collectively agree are not appropriate to say anymore. If you are thinking about reading this book, just know that you have been warned. I feel like I've talked about this already in a video, but I don't remember what video it was or why or how I would have talked about it. But it's Death Note. This follows, I think his name is Light, and Light basically stumbles upon this notebook. You write somebody's name in it and they die, but there's, like I said, there's rules about like the timing of when you write certain things. There's a way that you can specify like how they die or like when they die and stuff like that. And there's also the aspect where the police are trying to figure out who's killing all these people. And so they have like this, I don't know if he's like a private investigator or what he is, but the guy L, they like Interpol or whoever basically brings him in on the case. Light obviously is trying to murder all these people. Mind you, the people that he's murdering are people that are that are in jail or on death row for like really heinous crimes. But he's trying to do that, and then Elle is obviously trying to figure out like who's doing this. So they just kind of go back and forth trying to outsmart each other, and that is what I really like about this book. It's almost like watching them play chess. It's like they have to come up with these strategies to like outsmart the other one, and so just kind of watching them do that and go back and forth is just very, very entertaining. This was a 4-star read for me. Next, I read The Maidens by Alex Michaelides. I don't know how you say the last name. I gave this 4 stars. This follows, what was that lady's name? Alice or something? What was her name? Oh, Mariana. I have no idea why I said Alice. Her niece calls her and she's like, something bad happened. I think the niece's roommate went missing or something. And so Mariana, who I believe was like a therapist, like she might be like a psychologist or something, she goes to the school to basically to like comfort and be there for her niece. And then like this whole like murder mystery serial killer situation breaks out, and Mariana is there to kind of help solve it. It was very interesting. I really liked it. I wouldn't say it was like the most interesting mystery, like the most like, oh my gosh, you're not gonna see this coming. Like I definitely predicted the ending, but I wasn't sure. Honestly, when I said what I thought it was going to happen, I was kind of joking when I said it, but then it actually ended up happening, so like that was kind of cool. But yeah, I liked this. I think it had a decent twist. I really liked the Greek mythology that was kind of weaved into the story. So don't feel like if you don't know Greek mythology very well that you're going to be missing out on something. It's basically explained. The parts that you need to know will be explained to you. So don't let that be a hindrance if this is something that you were thinking about or considering reading. I would recommend this book. Definitely a good like dark academia. So yeah, I did enjoy this, gave this 4 stars, would definitely recommend. Next I read My Year of Rest and Relaxation, and I've talked about this book before in my best and worst reads of 2022, and I'm not even gonna try to like reinvent the wheel. I'm literally gonna go get, I'm trying to remember where I put it, I'm gonna go get my reading journal. I'm gonna just read what I wrote in my reading journal about this book because I just want to move on. So we're just gonna read it and then we're gonna talk about something else. Just so you know, I gave this book 2 stars, but here's why. Most books are either plot driven or character driven. This book wasn't really either. It was character driven, but there was no character development. The main character got drugs she didn't need from a therapist who shouldn't have a license to self-medicate, knock herself out for days at a time, under the belief that if she checked out of life for a year, she would reemerge and be a brand new, better person. The fact that her thought process is wrong on so many levels isn't the problem. The problem is that it worked. The one character who even remotely developed or changed or grew throughout the story, something bad happens to them at the end. I'm not going to spoil what happens. And then the main character's toxic ex, who should have had something bad happen to them, conveniently avoided the bad thing from happening to them. The book was incredibly boring and feels like nothing happens. The main character just documents all the nothing she does every day. What was the message here? What was the moral of the story? What should people take away from this story after reading it? So My Year of Rest and Relaxation was the first book that I read for the month of December, and then I started getting into more of my like holiday festive type of reads. So the first like holiday-ish book that I read for the month of December was The Visitor by Sergio Gomez. I don't have a physical copy of this book. It's a novella. I read it as an ebook. This book is, how would I describe this book? It is a sci-fi horror Christmas novella. This group of people get stranded in a snowstorm, and they're all stranded in this diner, and while they're stranded there, the power goes out, and it's about them basically trying to survive being attacked. That's as much as I'll say. It's very easy to spoil this book, especially with it being so short. There's not a whole lot that happens, so it's kind of hard to say anything without spoiling some aspect of it. I gave this book 3 stars. I would say if you like horror or sci-fi or gory type of books, definitely check this out. It does take place, I think, on Christmas Eve, but that's about all that is relevant to the Christmas aspect of it. Next, I read what was one of my most anticipated reads for the month of December, and that is In the Holidays by Christina Lauren. And this book I was really excited to read because it had to do with like the repeating day type of theme. This is a rom-com. I wasn't expecting to really be into the romance. I was more so like reading it because of the whole repeating day thing, and I thought that was going to be really funny. But like I said, they kind of abandoned that very early on in the storyline, and then it just kind of turned into like a romance, like a rom-com. Which was still good. Like, it was still interesting. I still liked it. I still thought it was really cute. I love the big grand gesture at the end. Like the way the ending, you know, happened, like the epilogue, all that was really, really good. So I would say that if you were into like cute, sweet, like rom-com type of like holiday books, if you did not read this for this past holiday, I definitely recommend that you put this on your like holiday reading list for 2023. The next holiday book that I read for December was Love Like Farm by B.K. Borson, and this book was so cute. I didn't really know what to expect because originally when I got this book back in like October. So it was actually, I think, during spooky season when I got this book, and I got it because I had gone to B.K. Borson's book signing. So I got this book and I got Mixed Signals. So I didn't really know like anything about this at the time that I got it. She owns a tree farm, and the tree farm is not doing well like financially, and she really needs basically like a miracle. Like, she needs money to keep the business going, and so she applies to this like contest or sweepstakes or something, and if she wins, the prize is $100,000, which she could desperately use to help, you know, keep her business thriving. And so she lies on the application and says that she owns the farm with her boyfriend, which she doesn't have a boyfriend. Cue Luca, that's where he comes into the picture. That is her best friend. It's fake dating trope. It's friends to lovers. It's super, super cute. But I will say that if you were going into this expecting to like see how everything goes with like the contest, the focus of the book is not on the contest. The focus of the book is more on their relationship. If you did not read this during this past holiday, definitely add this to your holiday reading list for 2023. And the last book that I read for the month of December was The Hunting Party by Lucy Foley. I purposefully waited until the end of the month to read this because this book takes place over the New Year's holiday. I think it starts on like, I don't know, December 30th or something, and I think it ends on January 2nd or something. So I purposefully wanted to read it like so that the dates would match up. It just makes for a more like immersive reading experience. Like you can read it whenever, it doesn't really matter. This follows a group of friends who go on vacation for New Year's. They're in like some remote area, I think in like Scotland. And basically the story jumps back and forth between, you know, present day, which is like January 2nd, and the past like 3 days, and you kind of get to see the events that led up to one of the guests going missing. And so you get the point of view from a couple of different characters. I think I gave this book like 4 stars, or it might have even been like 3.5. It was somewhere between 3.5 and 4. I can't remember exactly what I gave it. This is mostly character driven. This is definitely about like the characters and their relationships with each other and stuff like that, more so than like an actual plot or anything. So if you're looking for like a plot, that's not what this is. This kind of reminded me of like Big Little Lies meets like Single White Female or something like that. This reminded me a lot of Big Little Lies in terms of like kind of the format of like how it's written, how it's structured, but instead of it being a bunch of pretentious housewives and kindergarten moms, it's a bunch of pretentious Oxford graduates. And that is the end of this video. Those are all of the books that I've read for November and December. Let me know down below if you've read any of these books and what your thoughts are, or if there are any books in this video that you are interested in reading and adding to your TBR for 2023. As always, my social links will be down below in the description box. Be sure to like this video and subscribe if you are not already, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.